Welcome everyone. My name is Tokunbo Ajasa Alua. I'm the Chief Executive of Career Ready, and welcome to today's session, which is focused on the power of investing in corporate volunteering. We have an esteemed panel who are going to each share a bit of their expertise and experience on this subject matter. And then we'll move on to a Q&A session. So feel welcome to use the chat box to comment and share your reflections, and also ask questions for the Q&A segment. My colleagues will be prepping me with questions that come through the chat box. So yeah, please feel welcome to use that throughout the session today. Just to announce that this session is being recorded, just so you're aware from, and we'll be sharing that at the end of the event. So the format will go like this. We'll have the first of our four speakers sharing, and then we'll move on to another poll. Then we'll move on to the second speaker, followed by a poll, third speaker, followed by a poll, and our fourth, but no means least, speaker coming in at the end. And following the fourth speaker, we'll then move on to our Q&A session. So I'm going to start off by introducing our esteemed panel. First up, we have Rachel Glaze from Aviva. And Rachel is going to be focusing on the impact of volunteering within the business and how that's benefited the business. Next up, we've got Nancy Flint from the City Group, who's going to be sharing the experience that City have had as one of our longest standing partners in the space of social mobility and working with professional development. Third, we have Lucy Drummond, who is alumnus of the Career Ready program and has an exciting new gig that she'll be starting soon and telling us a bit about her personal experience. And last but no means least, we have Roy Lilowski from Marsh, who represents one of our trusted partners as well. We'll be speaking about the journey that Marsh has been going on in regards to volunteering and engagement. So as you may know, Career Ready is a charity that is focused on connecting young, talented individuals to the world of work. We work with a plethora of businesses, small to very large, across the UK. And our focus is about championing social mobility. So we work in pockets of the country where our services are needed the most. And our objective is unearthing fantastic hidden talent that businesses may normally find more challenging to access without us providing that bridge to that talent. So we've been going 19 years now, and we have an abundance of evidence and a plethora of stories that resonates with the great work that we've been able to achieve. And like I'm sure you'll hear from Lucy's firsthand experience, there's been thousands of young people that have come through our doors and had a life-changing experience, which has led to a fulfilling career in their chosen fields. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, who is Rachel Glaze from Aviva. Over to you, Rachel.
Brilliant, and thank you. And good afternoon, everybody. It's really lovely to join you all this afternoon and the rest of the panel to share some of our stories about working with Career Ready, partnering with them, and how this really helps all of our organisations. A little bit about Aviva and our history and our work with Career Ready. I first got involved with Career Ready back in 2015. But some colleagues of mine in Scotland have been working with the Career Ready team there since 2013. And we had our first internship up there in Perth in 2014. Since then, we've grown and expanded our partnership, I'm delighted to say. And we now work, as well as with Scotland, in Perth and Glasgow. We also work across London, York, Bristol and Sheffield. So what we've been able to do is think about how we can work with Career Ready where there's a need, as well as where we as an organisation have a need. And we've kind of brought those two together really perfectly. And that means that typically we have between, say, 30 to 35 mentors a year across the business. between 25 and 30 internships are offered, as well as a whole range of workplace visits, whether that be virtual these days or in person, and hopefully we'll move to those again very soon. Delivering and sharing delivery of masterclasses, and a number of my colleagues also participate and lead, in some cases chair, local advisory boards. So there's a whole range of ways that we partner and volunteer our time, energy and passion with Career Ready. And why do we do this at Aviva? Well, I guess first and foremost and holistically, and I'm sure that every other organisation will think about this as well, but the work of Career Ready really aligns with our values. Our 4 values of Aviva of care, community, confidence and commitment. And so work we do with Career Ready, the partnering, the support we give to young people and my colleagues around the organisation, that just really fits really comfortably with that. At Aviva, we talk about how we live and work in the same communities as our customers. Maybe that's you. And so this is one of the ways that our people can get really engaged with that in our communities and give back to their local communities. It's how they can help young people in those communities get the confidence to move into the workplace and build their skills. And then conversely, it also helps our colleagues develop their own skills, giving them confidence through workplace visits, hosting masterclasses, and just it's the work they do in mentoring as well. So there's kind of 2 reasons there. And then the third reason is a direct commercial benefit in terms of how our partnership with Career Ready helps us to build a pipeline of brilliant young talent to come into the roles that we and opportunities that we have at Aviva. How we run the partnership, I think, is quite hopefully helpful for you to understand. So we, at a national level, the partnership's led by myself and my colleagues in the recruitment team, and that's because of that intrinsic link to developing a pipeline of talent. But the real secret of our success, I think, in our partnership with Career Ready in all of these locations is the fact that we have local leads. So some of our colleagues, some local people who know that community, who live and work in York, who live and work in Perth, who live and work in Bristol, they lead our relationships there. We oversight them, we kind of connect them all, but they do what's right for that community, and they bring their own energy and passion. So I think that balance of a kind of national oversight with local leadership really brings it to the fore. And I'll just finish with some words from one of our mentors. I was looking back earlier and I thought these were so apt. Joe, who's one of our mentors up in York, he said a while ago, the 21 hours volunteering that we invest minimum per year might not seem like much, but for me, it was perhaps the most valuable 21 hours of my year. It gave me an opportunity to give young people and also an opportunity to gain development. I think that says it all, and I hope you enjoy finding more out about Career Ready this afternoon.
Thank you, Rachel. So before we move on to Nancy, I just want us to kind of, if we can, reflect on the poll results from the first poll that we took when we started the session today, just to give a snapshot of where people have dialed in, if possible. If it's not possible, then we'll swiftly move on to the next poll question that I wanted to share with you. So the next poll should be coming up now. Okay, that's the first one. Have we got the next poll question? The second poll question? Thank you, brilliant. So what percentage of millennials believe that business should be a positive leading force for social impact? So obviously one of these is correct. Please submit your answer now. Okay, hopefully we will get the results of that poll. And this poll was taken from data provided by Deloitte in their 2018 millennial study. Are we able to share the results? Okay, so 38% thought it was 74, 50% thought it was 90, and 13% thought it was 52. The correct answer being 90. So it shows that that next generation really expects a lot from their employer when it comes to social impact. So that's definitely something to have at the forefront of your mind when it comes to future-proofing business and the type of employee that you're likely to employ moving forward. Okay, great for that engagement. And without further ado, we'll move on to our second panel member. Over to you, Nancy.
Thanks, Dikemba. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity of speaking today. Career Ready and City started a partnership in 2002. It's part of our Global Pathways to Progress initiative. We know it's important to make an impact in the areas we operate our business, and City supports Career Ready in London, Belfast, Edinburgh. And for the first time this year, we're doing Jersey as it's possible, seeing as we're now all virtual. Our partnership is aligned with City's mission, our value proposition and our leadership principles, including, but not just limited to our commitment to greater diversity and inclusion in our firm and in society. Our colleagues have become mentors, masterclass facilitators and chairs, and also members of school and college local advisory boards. And I'm really proud to say, like, 95 mentors we have at City. And this year we are offering 105 4-week paid internships in the summer across the UK. I'm a volunteer at City. I do have a day job, but I'm so passionate and proud to be part of the Career Ready and City partnership. I started working with Career Ready when I hosted an intern about 5 or maybe 6 years ago. The programme struck the right chord with me, so I filled out the forms to volunteer and be more involved. This ended up with me being a lab chair of a school in Tower Hamlets, then being charged with the task of increasing the number of intern places at City. I started delivering masterclasses and hosting workplace visits. And now I'm also the UK chair for Career Ready at City. And I think maybe back then we had about 50 intern places, and now we are over 100. The volunteers at City feel they are part of a different community, all with a common purpose of transforming the career outcomes of young people across the UK. And it's different to their day job and the people that they typically work with. We make a difference. We release the students' potential by giving them the guidance that they need. As long as I've worked at City, which is over 11 years, they've been very committed to diversity and inclusion. It matters, and this year more than ever. And it's not just about ticking a box. It's not just about morals. It's about missing out on this pool of talent, not letting other businesses snap them up. We want to attract good people from this diverse pool of talent. If we invest the time now, a little bit like what Rachel said with Aviva, if we invest the time and energy now, we'll hopefully see these students come back to City when they finish university, or on our grad scheme, on our summer or spring internships, or on the A-level apprenticeship programs that we're rolling out. And after a 4-week internship, we will get to know these students much more than if we only relied on them during the interview process. And if they have a City mentor, then so much the better, as the deep relationship is already formed. I think we have 7, maybe a couple more since recently, young people joined City on a permanent basis in the last few years, 5 in Belfast, 2 in London. It's a good start, but no way is that enough. This year, I've had someone in my team take the role of alumni lead, and I want that to be where she is keeping in touch with the students that we would love to see back at City. And like I said, we want them back. We want to build a pipeline. After me, you'll hear from Lucy, a Career Ready alumni from 2016. She did her internship at City. She had a City mentor and will join City on the grad scheme in July. In addition, for me, it's important and really beneficial to my team to host interns at City, as it really is a win-win. These students, they're young, they're bright, they're keen, and they're allocated real work over the summer. Yes, they have to be closely managed and supported, but we get through jobs that we just haven't got round to all year, that just don't seem to make the way to the top of the list. And with some real thought, you can get some good projects off that list and get some good work done. So don't underestimate what these students are capable of. I think this is one of the reasons our internship places have increased over the years. All of our teams can see what they can also get done, from the interns. Also, it helps me develop my team by giving them the opportunity to manage the intern. It's added to their goals. It gives me the chance to give them guidance and see if there are any gaps. How good are they at training, explaining, coaching, communicating? How tolerant are they? How patient are they? How comfortable are they at giving constructive feedback to these young students? That's not always an easy thing to do. And then by the end of the internship, I can see what I have and what I don't have in members of the team, and give them the training that they need. Or I might find they're put off leadership for life. Delivering masterclasses at the school helps with confidence and public speaking. So much guidance is given by Career Ready. They produce the slides, talking points, but then it's down to the individuals to share their own experiences with the students and use their own flair. I really could go on, but I think that's probably my 5 minutes up. And I'm happy for Career Ready to share my contact details if anybody wants to follow up with me post this session.
Thanks, Nancy. So we're going to go to Lucy, but before doing so, you'll see the next question from our poll has popped up. And this question has been taken from our most recent research paper, which was focused on the power of volunteering. So the question is, what percentage of Career Ready volunteers improve their coaching and leadership skills? 77%, 84, or 91? Please submit your answer. And Lucy, just before we come to you, we'll just have a quick review of what people's views were on that poll question. Can we share the results of that, please? Brilliant. Okay, so we had the majority believing it's 91%, and 91% is the correct answer. And that piece of research is something that literally went live within a matter of days, and we'll be sharing that with you all at the end of this session. So I'll hand over to Lucy to share a bit about her experience. Lucy, over to you.
Okay, so good afternoon all. As previously mentioned, my name is Lucy Drummond and I was in the Career Ready programme in 2016. During our first introduction to our Level 3 course at Belfast Metropolitan College, we were briefly introduced to the idea of Career Ready, what it would involve, and most importantly, how we could interview to get a space in the programme. I knew straight off that it was something that I wanted to be a part of, and I was very fortunate whenever I got my space in the programme after the interview process. From my experience, there are 3 major aspects of the programme I enjoyed: my mentor, my internship, and of course winning Student of the Year for Northern Ireland in 2017. My mentor was called Phil Wilkinson. Phil, at the beginning of my journey, started working in City, and then just before my internship, moved to a tech startup company. I really benefited from mine and Phil's relationship for a number of different reasons. The most obvious being having a business professional discuss their experiences with me and help build skills such as networking. When I first met Phil, confidence was a major struggle of mine. My educational journey to that point had been extremely difficult, given I have 3 diagnosed learning disabilities. School has always been horrible, to put it simply. Phil was able to recognise that I really struggled with the idea of alternative educational routes, and quickly began to introduce me to many incredibly successful business professionals that had came from all different backgrounds. May that have been apprenticeships, level 3s, traditional university paths, or just coming and getting jobs straight out of GCSEs. Phil really spent a lot of time explaining that success comes from working hard and not just from circumstance of completing A-levels. Phil was incredible in the sense that whenever I expressed an interest in a certain sector of business that he himself was not familiar, he would find someone he could set me up with and build a relationship, but also set up meetings where they could explain their experiences day to day in that particular job and help me get a real understanding of the role. I really appreciate everything Phil did for me for those 2 years in the program. Not only was Phil my mentor, but he was also a friend who really went above and beyond to always support me and help make my dreams and goals a reality in any way he could. On my graduation day, Phil gave me a card in which he had quoted something I said in one of our very first meetings together. 3 goals: improve confidence, ace the distinctions, and win student of the year. Underneath it, he wrote all achieved. Phil really was a mentor for me and someone who really helped push me. And without a doubt, would not be in the position I am today. Another incredible experience I got during my time in the program being my internship. My internship was in City within the operations department, this being working in live markets. Someone I met during my time there being James Allen, who very quickly became another mentor role in my life. I was in City for 6 weeks, which I loved every second of. I loved having real responsibilities, seeing the business professionals we had learnt about and studied about in college in their roles and getting to be a part of the team. Since leaving Career Ready, I have returned to City for my placement year. Once again, I was working in one of James Allen's teams. James reached out to me to apply for the role and I was ecstatic when I got the job. I am now graduating from university this year. I actually found out on Friday there that I will be leaving with a 2-1, which for a very long time throughout my educational life, I was told it would be completely impossible for me to even attend university, let alone leave with a respected degree. City have asked me to return for their graduate program, which I'm very excited to start in July. And I once again will be working in the operations department. I know without a doubt I wouldn't have achieved any of the incredible things I have without the Career Ready program. I know without them I would still be the extremely shy little girl that listened to the secondary teachers who told me I would never make anything of myself. Now, thanks to the Career Ready program and everything you have done for me, I'm about to start my career as an operations analyst at City, and I really couldn't be happier nor prouder of both myself and everything the Career Ready program can help young people like myself achieve, because we really just need people like yourselves to believe that we can achieve our goals and guide us along the right paths. Thank you.
Wow, Lucy, that was that was simply awesome. Thank you for sharing an insight to your amazing journey. And you know, the little that you've shared with us, for me, just what really resonated is just how powerful and resilient you have been. And it's something that is a quality that's really familiar with a lot of the alumni. So thank you for coming today and sharing with us. Okay, before we move on to Voy, I'd like us to have another poll, give us some more insight into your thinking. So this question is about what percentage of employees and executives have more confidence in companies with a strong sense of purpose. So take your pick now, please. Okay, can we share the results of that question? Okay, the overwhelming number of you believed it was 80%, and that figure is correct. And that research came from a report by Deloitte looking into the workplace cultures that are present across a number of different businesses. So moving on swiftly to our fourth speaker, Voy from Marsh. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kunba. Good afternoon, everybody. Absolute pleasure to be with here this afternoon. My name is Vojilovsky. I'm an industry operations leader at Marsh. We are a risk and insurance broker. So very similar sector to Rachel and Aviva. And you know, first what I wanted to say is just it's difficult to follow Lucy, isn't it? You know, Lucy, I mean, I'm in absolute awe, and this is one of those things that strikes me. You know, when I kind of remember back, me being your age, you know, and looking at the skills you just displayed here, speaking in front of over 30 people, with that level of confidence, but also the energy, the smile that you brought to the table. You know, I was absolutely unable to perform to that level when I was your age, and I'm always so impressed. It's so absolutely congratulations on everything you achieved, and delighted for your starting career in City. You know, I'll touch a little bit on sort of on my personal motivations of, you know, why I chose to work with Career Ready. But before I get there, I thought I would mention a number of things around this sort of more business and professional reason as well. And again, we only have 5 minutes each, so this, you know, we can only scratch the surface. But the beauty of this community is that we actually are community. And we really support each other with a level of transparency. And the people like Nancy and Rachel and, you know, other partners of Career, they have been extremely generous in sharing their insight and best practice with myself that, you know, I strongly believe helped accelerate, you know, the journey that we went on at Marsh as well. So please do tap into that. It's an invaluable resource. Whilst each of our organizations, you know, we are all different, but there are some similar challenges that we're all tackling with, you know, not least, you know, how do we align stakeholders and this kind of stuff. So we've all been there on that journey, some longer than others, and I think we can really share and help, hopefully, because, you know, it's the right thing to do. So, you know, why did we get involved with Career Ready? So interestingly enough, when you're in the risk and insurance business and you look, you know, what are the top 3 strategic risks of any company of any size in any industry, there's always something about talent and people. So it is really the, you know, the front of mind of the boards and C-suites of, you know, all the companies. And I think it's important to understand that, you know, now with the advent of environmental, social, and corporate governance specifically, I think we really bridged the gap, and we're going to the point where it's no longer about having a high level strategy on the board level. It is about how it translates itself to the ground level, right? So can we actually service our clients and our employees in a way that sort of they relate to, that they believe reflects the wider demographic where we operate in. And interestingly enough, again, so we advise the clients on this commercially as part of our business proposition. At the same time, we're part of their supply chain. So we already see some progressive companies, particularly in sectors like, you know, brands and consumer brands, and, you know, that are very forward, very kind of connected with their customer base. You know, they're applying that thinking around us. And, you know, it's no longer just saying, you know, what is our ESG strategy? It's now about how your servicing team that you're going to pull together going to reflect my values and my expectations around where you service me or provide your product in. So this, combined with all the signs that I'm sure undoubtedly have all seen about the benefits, financial benefits of having diversity. You know, we are at this stage, I think, where we know we no longer need the business case of doing it. Now it's just how you can do it, right? And what works, what doesn't, what we can learn from each other, and can we actually accelerate some of that journey? And that's a little bit how we went about it at Marsh. So I joined Marsh over 2 years ago. I had prior experience working with Career Ready from my, you know, previous employer, and when I joined Marsh, I realized they don't have anything like that. So I very quickly, you know, I went about actually aligning stakeholders and creating a buy-in to start the program. For me, why? Because Career Ready offers something that's nearly out of the box ready. You know, it's actually low barriers to entry. They have a structure, they have a program, and they're a perfect catalyst to understand the private sector, the business side of things, but also the school side of things. And they're so effective in bringing us together. So in order to start a program, it's actually relatively easy. You know, all you need is just to source the mentors, and, you know, you can start small and just grow the program over the years. That's exactly what we did. So we started, I think we have around 15 mentors, you know, over the year from different business areas. Now in year 2, we are at 32 mentors, including our sister company already. And next year we actually, and that's the part I'm excited about, we're actually going to offer internships, 50 internships, you know, so it's a big stage, you know, big move forward for us. And, you know, the benefit is we do have early careers programs, graduate program, and so on. We've been investing quite heavily into that. But when we actually stopped, paused, and reflected on where we source our talent from, we understood that actually that's already non-inclusive. Because, you know, when you compare with the student base that we get through to Career Ready, a lot of the students either do not have an option or decide not to go to the university. So if you rely just on the graduates, you're already basically excluding a big pool of talent, you know. And again, when you think about the problem we're trying to solve for ourselves is how many people who don't know anything about insurance going to choose as a career path. Let's be honest. It's not a sexy sector, and the general public's kind of, concept. Probably everybody imagines, this claims clerk with the, house insurance, motor insurance, the most boring job ever, So we really need to get to those people that we are not getting into and actually showcase a different view of our sector, and then hopefully attract them to consider our careers. And lastly, the opportunity it gives you is you have a touch point with them for a year through a mentor that actually informs them so much about the business as well. So at the end of that year, if then they choose to enter your organization either through apprenticeship program, graduate program, or even directly, they go into that with open eyes. They know what the business is about, they understand it. And therefore, I fundamentally believe that it not only helps with the diversity, but also the retention of that talent and sort of inclusion, as you kind of move it throughout the organization. So that's kind of the business premise in a nutshell. And personally, for the longest time, I've struggled working in the private sector where, capitalistic system, it's all about making money at the end of the day, whilst of course there's some positive impact there. So having an opportunity to actually within my working environment give back, is a very strong motivator for myself, but also a lot of the colleagues, and interestingly enough, I never struggled to recruit the mentors. Every single time I approach anybody in the business and I explain what Career Ready is about, it's an automatic yes. But interestingly enough, even very senior professionals, there's a lack of confidence actually throughout the corporate, calling environment. And a lot of time I actually get a question from the people who did not have that experience previously saying, but can I actually add value to those students? Which, once you've been through the experience, obviously that you can add a lot of value, but a lot of people self-doubt around that. But this is literally number one kind of question we get when we talk about the D&I agenda. People want to help. People want to have that sense of purpose. People want to contribute to the impact. It's just how to add that value. And I think Career Ready is a perfect example of how you can add value that's energizing. And just quickly wrap up because we're a little bit over time. In terms of impact on the young persons I personally mentored in the past 4.5 years, confidence, and Lucy spoke about confidence, didn't you, Lucy? That is literally number one. It is a lot about skills building, of course, and realizing actually a lot of those young students already have ready-made skills. They just don't realize those are skills or assets. So, element of awareness there. But that confidence, just the fact that this is a partnership dialogue over a year, on equal footing, it just, you see the students really come out of their shells, but also it is giving a different perspective. A lot of students I spend time with, they come from families and networks that are in small retail, small services. They don't have access, either through school or through their personal networks to actually understand what else is out there. How can I think about my career? And they don't understand how the private sector, how our businesses are structured. So, the way of thinking, even if they think about sector like insurance, it's very simplistic. And I think, through that interaction, it gives them a different reference point. It's something to consider when they're thinking about where they want to move forward. Well, that's it for now. I'm like Nancy, I'm more than willing to, if you want to reach out to me through Career Ready, please do. I think there's a value that's sharing that and doing this together, so make sure that we have that critical mass. So with no further ado, back to Takunbo, I think, for Q&A.
Thank you, Voy. Yes, Q&A time. So please feel free to share your questions in the chat, either openly or directly to the host account. And whilst that's happening, I'll kick off with a couple of warm-up questions, I suppose. And Nancy, I'd like to come to you first. Based on what you shared about the investment that City now is putting in regards to that longer legacy and having the resource to focus on the alumni of the interns and seeing the reward of that kind of energy with the likes of Lucy and others, what would you describe as being the kind of the most challenging and most rewarding realities when working with the interns that you host?
I think the most challenging is going to be keeping up the relationships with the mentors and the interns, because the interns that we've got coming through this summer might not come back to City for another 4 or 5 years. And by then we'll have like another 100 next year and the year after and the year after. So it's just trying to find a process. And that's why I've nominated somebody as an alumni lead to see how can they do this. This is the first time we've done it. I don't really know what it's going to look like, but we will navigate our way around it. We're going to work very closely with the intern managers to get feedback on students. You know, who wants to come back? Who do we want back? Who wants to come back? Who wants to get into finance? And just make sure that we touch base with them regularly so that they know when if we've got an apprenticeship scheme kicking off, what are the timelines? What do they need to do, and help them through that? Summer internships, spring internships, the graduate scheme, and really work and try and stay close to their mentors. If the mentors are at City, it's easy. It's when it's outside to just find a process with Career Ready, just to kind of, you know, keep in touch with the students. And the most rewarding is to have somebody back. We had a chap, Ahmed, who was on the internship in the TTS scheme, I think in 2016. And last year he started in banking on the grad scheme. And that's what I really want to see. And he's in London, and I think he's one of 2 in London. That's far too few. That's it, kind of quite embarrassing, really. And then of course we've got Lucy, who we heard from, who's a little superstar. And that is the reward, isn't it? To do everything that we've done, you know, the 94 mentors at City, over 100 places at City, all the masterclasses we deliver at schools, and then to get these students back into City. And it's not easy, none of it's easy, but that's what I really want to achieve. There's a lot of work still for the students. They have to apply, they have to go through the, there's no way of fast tracking them. But the fact that they've been with us for 4 weeks, that really far outweighs just an interview process.
Thank you, Nancy. And relating to that, Lucy, share with us, what were you considering career-wise before you had that experience with City? What was in your mind when you were thinking about 10 years from now, I want to do X? What did that X look like? And how did your experience with City and Career Ready impact that thought?
Before I actually came on to Career Ready, I was going to study horticulture and I was going to be a gardener. So that was a very quick turnaround for me, up until I went on my actual internship once I started on the business program, because I got accepted into the Greenmount College of Horticulture 3 times and I said no 3 times. When I went on to the business course then, I had absolutely no clue what I wanted to do. I thought maybe marketing or advertising, something along those lines. But I've always been very open-minded, and the internship program then just was, I don't know, something just clicked whenever I got to City. I always thought of finance as just accounting. I didn't realize there were so many different aspects of it.
Brilliant, thank you. And one of the questions that's come through the chat to the entire panel, how do you approach your senior team to get buy-in and budget to make a program like this a reality? Would any of you like to share what that experience or any advice that you could give for someone that's in that position?
I might leave that to Rachel and Roy, because you know we've got a long history dating back to 1982 with Career Ready, I think, or whatever it used to be called in the US. So and James Bardrick is kind of closely aligned to it. So I think that's been a bit easier for me to step into that.
Understood. Rachel, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy to comment, and I'll be honest with the group, it's sometimes challenging. So but like with any funding, but it's even easier with this opportunity because you can show success. it's about showing what the benefits are to the organisation, and we've all talked about those. There's commercial benefits. There's about building that candidate pipeline. You know, we see Lucy now joining City. That's a fantastic example of direct benefit to the organisation. And when we're all thinking about diversity and how we can bring a breadth of different people into our organisations, this is one of those ways that we can really help with that. So I think that is a really helpful way to approach the funding conversation. Getting people involved, so getting some of our senior leaders involved in mentoring, in masterclasses, in just hearing from some great students who've been involved or talking to mentors. You know, it's kind of that storytelling really helps with funding. And you know, we share the funding across, some of it comes out of our recruitment budget and some of it comes out of the lines if it's internship hosting. So we kind of take a blended approach.
Right.
Yeah,
and if you're in that position, Rachel, like what department internally would you recommend someone that may have heard of us as a charity that they'd like to recommend to the business? Where should they start? Is it like talent development team, HR? Is it, you know, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think there's two pathways. So there's the HR and recruitment talent pathway, which is where I am, or there's the corporate responsibility, sustainability pathway, and you can kind of go either or both. Maybe that's the best way to, you know, and kind of collaborate. So, you know, for us, it's led from the HR team, from the recruitment team. So that's kind of where it sits for us. But I think other organisations may definitely take the CR route as well.
So for us, it's exactly how we went about it. But I think, you know, in my mind, so interestingly enough, for Marsh, the money was the easy bit, believe it or not. It was actually aligning. So we're a massive organization. I'm sure many of you are sitting in big organizations. The challenge of bringing different stakeholders together, and Rachel kind of covered a number of them, but also how do you link with sort of employee resource group, the grassroots engagement, because this is often where that is the ideas are coming from. And certainly in my case, in my previous employer and with Marsh, you know, we sort of originated the idea through the employee resource groups. But then how do you get HR on board? And for us, it's the talent acquisition, so sort of like Rachel's equivalent, but it's also our HR business partners with the core business, and how do we engage with the senior leadership? I think that was the challenge. But, you know, basically what we did, so we kind of flashed it out. We got people on board with sort of the concept. Then we went to pitch to the, you know, senior leadership team last July. And basically what we told them, quite honestly and openly, saying, listen, it felt like we are driving the D&I agenda for Marsh and not them. And you know what? Actually, that paid off, because it was a little bit of a wake-up call. And our CEO, Chris Lay, he actually said, okay, I need 2 volunteers from the team to actually start sponsoring that drive on behalf of the executive agenda. And then, you know, we sort of moved more in an advisory position. And that really kind of accelerated the whole journey quite a lot, you know, with the executives, you know, because there's always money in a business. When you look at actual cost of what it costs us for internship, you know, in comparison to what we're paying for our full-time FTEs, it's a fraction of that cost. So it's really not a massive amount of money. But that alignment, because, you know, from the leadership perspective, they will know, so how does that fit within our early careers framework, right? So, you know, they're reluctant to start something that they could consider as in competition to something that's already rolling. So having that engagement and collaborative approach, we say, is actually enhancing our early careers program, right? Because we're going and we're going to touch some of the students before they go to the university. We're more inclusive. We help them earlier. You know, we get them interested in our sector, like with Lucy, right? I mean, a lot of students I've been directly involved with, I'd say 70, 80%, you know, end up actually being quite interested in your business at the end of the journey. Not all of them, right? The mentee I'm mentoring this year, for example, she wants to work in healthcare. So, you know, very different career choice, but 70, 80%, and, you know, the ones I've been in touch with do want to, you know, get into your organization. So then having support from early careers team, making sure that, you know, we can offer them what often, you know, the students in private schools have access to, which is, you know, the actual, you know, familiarization with how the process works. You know, what do you need to consider? How do you apply to Stacey? And Nancy's going to laugh because, you know, very often she said, well, that process is actually quite complex. It's not easy. So somebody who hasn't had any support, how will they ever find it or be able to sort of navigate through the process without that support? And I think that is, you know, where we can really, really help.
Thanks, Roy. Voy, I want to come back to your personal experience of mentoring, regards to what you've mentioned. And could you share with us practically, how much time does it take? Because you had an appetite to give back, right? So what does that look like in reality for you? I mean, how much of, or on average, say a month, how much of your time is focused on supporting your mentee? Yeah, just give us a flavor of what that looks like, please.
Of course. And, the good news is actually it doesn't take that much time. And I think, when you look at the core program, which is year 12 and in the calendar year, the commitment we make is 1 hour per month. And, there's a flexibility because it's a one-on-one mentoring. So, there's always ways to work around schedules and, you can move things as required. So the commitment is not big. Yeah, I certainly haven't struggled with it. And chatting with my colleagues, nobody really has either. So that's the core, but out of the conversation, obviously you do a little bit more, right? So to the example of my mentee healthcare, right? So, I don't have a big network within healthcare, but I have a colleague who leads our healthcare industry practice, and is extremely well connected in the sector. But, this is something that we do in the business context all the time, connecting people, creating networks. It's sort of like, I wouldn't even consider that any extra time I'm spending on it. So the mentoring proper is really, I think, very, very easy to accommodate in busy schedules.
Right. And in regards to support for yourself as a mentor, what has that looked like? Have we, as a charity, been able to provide any training? What's it when it comes to DBS checks and police checks?
Yeah,
what
so this
like
is, I think, the easy bit that I alluded to before when I was speaking. So Career Ready provides all of this. So it is really out of the box solution. So yes, obviously, because we're dealing with minors, there is a DBS check requirement, but you do it through Career Ready with the full process and sort of coordination. And there's a lovely lady called Angeli who sort of supports with the troubleshooting around. So, that process is covered and it's free of charge if you go through Career Ready. And obviously there's also mechanisms where you can sort of register yourself in the central database so you can use the same DBS check for other volunteering initiatives. So it's definitely there and it's covered, but it's, the whole program has a structure, and there's, there is an orientation program for the mentors. There is a handbook for the mentors, mentees. So the structure is there. Obviously, you don't have to religiously observe it every time. I mean, the process is quite organic, but structure and support is absolutely brilliant. And I think this is why it's so easy. There's very little barriers to entry to just start it, even if it's on a small scale, even with 5 to 10 people initially. Then you test it out, you get that success stories. People are absolutely, my experience, on fire for it. And then you get the word of mouth and that support, from the bottom as well, because the people will vouch for the program and help you engage with other stakeholders as well.
Brilliant. So I've got a 2-part question next. The first part is to you, Lucy, in regards to when you finished Career Ready and you finished school, was there ever a consideration of going straight into the world of work, or did you always have aspirations of going to university? And the second part of that question is to the rest of the panel. Is there an appetite, if you do host a young person on an internship that really shines and really shows that they have value to the business, is there an appetite or an opportunity to hire that person straight from the internship, or would there always be that notion of them going on to higher education and then potentially returning? So the first part, I'll give you guys some time to think, ponder your response on that. And to you, Lucy, what was going straight into work ever a consideration?
I don't think so. I think I always really wanted to go to university. Phil and I worked for a very long time in both years on my applications for all of my UCAS stuff for university. But I know a lot of some of my other friends from Career Ready did go straight into work after their intern or after finishing their level 3s. So I think there is different routes for everybody. It's just a very personal choice on whether you want to attend uni or if you're happy enough just to go straight out to the working world.
Brilliant, thank you. And the second part of the question to the rest of the panel, any thoughts?
I think in Belfast, we have roles, and I think a few of them have gone straight from that A-level year into city. So I think it really depends on the role. I'd like to see more of that happen. We don't tend to have that in London. We are sort of rolling out some A-level apprenticeship or that year apprenticeship schemes, which we didn't really have before. Last year was the first time we piloted it, and unfortunately it was all virtual, but we are going to do that. So we're not insisting everyone has to go to uni. And one of the ops managers that probably Lucy's working for, he's kind of, he's against the way that we make at City, we make you fill in the forms and it almost forces you to put a degree in there. We want to kind of reverse that you don't have to put a degree in. And if you have a degree, then you put the degree in rather than it default to, I've got to do it, because I think that's putting some of these students off. I had a lovely girl with me in 2019, and I would have loved to have seen her come back on our A-level apprenticeship scheme or come back into City. So I was a little bit disappointed when I saw her pop up on LinkedIn in doing exactly that at UBS, which is why I want that alumni. I want to see students back at City, and like I said, diversity and inclusion is a real thing, and any company that's not on that bus now is going to really get left behind. I'm not sure how, if I was a company starting that now, how I would do it and make it the success that we've got it today. And like we said a couple of times, Career Ready is really like off the shelf. You're just buying that package off the shelf, and they give you so much support. So yeah, I want to do more of that. I want to see more when they finish that, finish school coming into City.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nancy. Any other members of the panel like to comment on that idea of going straight into work as an opportunity within your
so
business?
for us, it's similar to Nancy in the City, actually. So, we just started our journey a couple of years ago, and we started from the graduate program, because it needs to have arms and legs, and this is, organizationally, that's where we started. But now we're really pushing hard on growing our apprenticeship schemes. And to Nancy's point, we kind of discovered that for whatever reason, we end up with them being in our centers of excellence outside of London, and London was more kind of targeted for graduates. And I challenged entire executive team on this, and I said, guys, we even laugh in insurance that often you just end up in insurance by accident. So you're not going to tell me in your current employee population that people couldn't have gone even directly off an apprentices scheme. And you know what? They all agree. And actually this year, we're going to grow threefold of, quadruple time, the number of apprentices we're going to take into London. But we also actually had the first couple of examples where we felt that it's an entry-level positions were appropriate for people who are now, 18 years of age or older, right? And we can offer that some of our mentees as well. And that's definitely the area we want to grow, rather than just reducing ourselves to the university intake. Again, I feel like that is limiting the inclusion of how we actually look at the talent pool if we just go through the graduates.
Thanks, Roy. Rachel, a question for you. How do you track the impact internally of your volunteers program? Do you capture any data? I know you reference kind of examples like talent coming into the business, but how else do you capture and galvanize engagement internally when it comes to data of the impact for the employees that take part in volunteering?
Yeah, so we have a kind of organisational level, all the usual sorts of employee surveys, etc., that a lot of people will expect us to have. So we do track some things through there, through our wellbeing. That's generically across all of our volunteering opportunities. We pay attention to the surveys that are run in conjunction with Career Ready at the end of mentoring partnerships or at the end of internships, and so that gives us some really good insight. We need to get smarter at it, I think, in the same way as kind of Nancy's thinking about how we need to keep connected through alumni. We also need to do more of that and more of looking at this impact analysis. But kind of just picking up on the last point, for me, it's about when we see some people join our organisation. So we have some great successes where we've had people join our organisation into starting roles, into our customer frontline. They've not been to university, but they've had a fantastic experience at school, as well as with Career Ready, and they're coming to great jobs at Aviva, serving our customers every day. That is the benefit for me. So I think it's about, we do need to do some more systematic measuring, but we absolutely see it flow through in our overall.
Brilliant. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to ask one more question, and that is about what has pleasantly surprised you about the volunteering engagement within your organizations. Was there any aspect of that experience that you've either personally had or seen in colleagues that you wasn't expecting as part of your volunteering engagement. Any thoughts come to mind?
I say wasn't expecting. I certainly wasn't expecting when I first went up to Perth and went to the graduation ceremony, which is such an amazing event. You hear, you know, fantastic experiences as Lucy shared hers, and you hear those every day, and it's such a personal impact for everybody. And then anybody who connects with Career Ready, whether it's as a mentor host or as an internship host, delivering a masterclass, they have that same personal impact every time. And I'm not surprised anymore, but I'm so thrilled and pleased every time I see it, because it's just reinforcing, it's just layering that experience. And it's hard to put into words, but I just think it's awesome. It just touches people at a very different level.
Brilliant. Any other thoughts, Nancy or Voy?
Again, like Rachel, it's not a surprise. You know, City encourage, you know, there's loads of volunteers at City, and not just for the Career Ready programme. So it just doesn't surprise me that, and I think we had so many volunteers, you know, offers of volunteers this year. I think our CR have had to sort of say, look, no more for the programme. So we're a very keen bunch. We're encouraged to do it. You know, we put it in goals. We want, and people are really satisfied from it. And sometimes, I suppose what I love is to see that where we've gone from taking 40 or 50 interns, and I know that's not possible for all companies. City's a big beast. You could argue we should be taking a lot more, and I will aim for that. But every year, the teams that took on one, because maybe they felt that they had to, and they didn't know what we're going to do with this 17-year-old, and you know, and then the next year they're saying, can I take 2? Can I take 3? Because they just, you know, they got so much back out of them, and they, like I say, they got some real work done as well as giving stuff to the student. They got it back. So I always like it when somebody comes to me the next year and asks for more students. And audit, I think they've taken about 10, and ops, where Lucy is, I think they've taken 15. You know, so I love seeing that. So there's obviously a massive benefit. So that makes me feel good.
Brilliant.
For me, you know, I can absolutely concur with everything Rachel and Nancy just said. The only other thing I would add is, you know, for me, personal joy is when you actually start building closer relationship with the schools as well. Because, you know, often you kind of target and you kind of continue collaborating with the same schools. And I still remember vividly, I volunteered with the school in East London in Stepney Green. And when I walked in the first time in my suit, they looked at me like a pink elephant. You know, I was so out of place there. And, you know, honest, you know, like I understood so little of their reality as well. But now, you know, 4.5 years, you know, further down the line, I mean, we have a close relationship. Those local advisory boards are a great way to actually just sit with the schools together. And, you know, we have so much research and thinking and experience and dealing with some of the challenges they're faced with. And you know, we can really work together about overcoming some of them. And the number of experiences I have with the school, you know, through Dragon's Den type of, you know, mock-ups and mock-up interviews or whatever that was, it's always a joy. And there's just so many different ways we can get involved. There's a full flexibility. So a lot of colleagues who cannot commit to that 1 hour per month, they can still actually commit to maybe one-off, you know, deliver a masterclass, go to that school, participate on the jury panel, you know, listen to the voice of the student forum or whatever that is, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Voy. So we've run out of time, so I'm just going to wrap up very quickly. And this session is part of Volunteers Week. So this week we've got a number of different activations reflecting and celebrating the impact of volunteers. For us, they're our lifeline. You know, without the volunteers, it would be very hard for us to find the likes of Lucy and support them on their journey. So we are on the verge of launching our new strategy plan, and part of that is about growing the number of sectors that we work within. So if you're an organization that is sitting in today and hearing a lot of things that are of interest, we like to explore working with you. So to wrap up, just want to finally say thank you to our panel, Rachel, Nancy, Voy, and Lucy. Thank you very much for your time and your contributions. Great session. Take care all.
Thanks all.